Hi. Today what we're going to do is we're going to start taking our toe down, and I'm going to use a round toe, which is, it's a pretty toe. It fits my foot very nicely. In another video we will go ahead and learn how to do the box toe, more of a boxy toe. This is the round toe. And you can kind of see we do some decreases and pearls. It looks very pretty. It's really cute. And I don't know if you can see this real well, but this is the box. And it's more boxy looking. And I don't like the way this one fits on my foot. So that's why I came up with the round toe. You're welcome to go ahead and Google this if you want to do it on this sock. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and do the round toe. So hopefully, let me show you. Now I have my stitch markers from where we put them, just so that in case I lost track of where my centers were, I still have them. And the way, if you have yours and you want to move them up, just go ahead and follow that line up. And you can see it just goes right up between, and then you can hook it here if you wish to, and that's not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and do that just to kind of help you girls and guys. And then you should also have your two stitch markers right here, because we are going to cut this into, not cut it literally, but we're going to segment it into 4 parts as we do our toe box. And so we will need all of our sections to be, mine is 12 inches, depending on how many you cast on. Remember, yours might be different, yours might be the same. So I have 12 inches in each segment of my needle. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to get ready to knit, which I'm going to move all of my stitches. And then I'll pull my needle. So basically you knit on the first row, you knit the first stitch. The second stitch you purl, and then you knit to 3 stitches, and some of you may want to knit to 2 stitches, especially I'm going to knit to 2 stitches. It will be just fine. 2 stitches before. If you do 3 stitches, that means you're going to knit 2 together and then knit the last stitch. But I'm going to go ahead and take mine clear to my marker, and I'm going to knit those last 2 stitches together. Okay? Slip your marker, do the same thing. Knit 1, purl 1, and then I'm knitting to the last 2 stitches. And then you knit those last 2 stitches together. Now, the difference between the round toe and the box toe is you will do a knit 2 together on one side, and then you will do a slip on the other side. And then at the end of these, at the beginning and end of your needle, you won't decrease. The box is just right here, but we're not doing the box, we're doing the round, so we're going to go ahead and knit the last 2 stitches in our segment. So now, if you look at this, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Now remember, we did 1, and if you need to make tick marks, go ahead and do that. That won't hurt anything. And sometimes I do that so that I remember. So I knit 1, I'm going to put a tick mark for the 1 right there. So I turn my needle, and remember, 2 sides of your cable are 1 whole row. So you have to do the same thing on the other side, which means I go ahead and knit 1 stitch, I purl the next stitch, and then I knit to the last 2 stitches in this segment before I get to my marker. And once I get to those last 2 stitches before my marker, those last 2 stitches will get knit together. And I'm almost there. There we go. So I'm going to knit those together, slip my marker, knit 1, purl 1, and then knit to the end of this one, leaving 2 stitches that get knit together. So that would be a row 1. Row 2 and all even rows just get knit through. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm finished with row 1. I'm going to turn it. Now, this would be my second row, and I'm going to knit across all of my stitches and back. And I'm going to pause my video, and you go ahead and knit these stitches and knit back. And when I come back, then we'll do the second row, and I'll show you what the difference is. Okay, so I have knit my second row. Now you don't have to keep track of row 1, row 2, row 3, because every other row after you've decreased, you're just going to knit around. So what I do want to keep track of is how far in I have done my purl. Now on our first row, we knit 1 and then we purled the second one. So I put down a 1 and then we knit the second row. This next row, the only thing different is, I'm thinking of my double points, we're going to knit 2 of the first stitch after our marker. 1, 2, and then you're going to purl the next stitch, and then again we're going to do the same thing. We're going to knit to our last 2 stitches, and you're going to knit those last 2 stitches together. So the only difference is after we've slipped our marker, we just knit 2. Let me move that on my way. 1, 2, and then we purl 1. And then we knit to the end of our row. And we knit those 2 stitches together. And you can see it's starting to make a nice little chevron, a V. And it will do that clear up until we get about here. So I'm going to pause my video, and I'm going to work till here. You might not want to work as far as I do, because after we get here, we do it just a little bit different. After we get to the point where we're knitting 2 together, but we can't knit purl 1, we just knit together. So let me go ahead and get to that point, and I'll be right back and show you how it looks. So before we get too far, let me show you another little trick that will help you. Now I've knit the first 2 stitches, so I marked a 2 on here. If you're not sure, if you have to answer the door or check the kids, or go cook supper, and you've had to stop, this is the only way, this is the best way for you to see. If you can see your cuff on your stitch, like I have here, so I'm just going to count back. 1, 2. Okay, I've done 2. So I know that my next row is going to have to be a complete knit around, because I can see the cuff very easily. Now, when you look at, I haven't done the other side. When you look at the other, oh yes, I have. I'm sorry. I have. But if your cuff is just down below a stitch and you have another stitch on your needle, here, let me knit just a few little stitches so that you can see what I'm talking about. And this way you'll know whether you're on a purl row or whether you're on just a regular knit row. And I think I can stop here. Okay, so when you look at this, this has been a knit row. And as you pull your needle away from your knitting a little bit, you can see that the cuff, it looks like it's up against the needle, but if I pull it, I can see that it's not the stitch that's on my needle, I actually have another stitch on top of that one. So that will give you a good idea. If you get confused and don't know what you're doing, then you can kind of look at that and tell what row you're on. Okay, I'm going to pause this and I'll be back when I get to the point where we can no longer do our single purls. Okay, so I'm on the second side. This was my first side. I already did this side, but I'm going to show you how I'm doing this. I have done 5 stitches so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The purl was on the 5th stitch. So now I'm going to do the purl on the 6th stitch, and be aware of how close it is. It's right up to the purl 2 or knit 2 together. Oh, and that's one thing I wanted to tell you. When you get to the 2 stitches that you knit together, if you want to do something really cute and a different design, you can purl those stitches together instead of knitting them, but that's a personal choice, whatever you like. Okay, so I've knit 5 stitches. This 6th stitch is going to be purled, but then the very next ones are going to have to be knit together. And I've already done the other side just to save time a little bit. So I'm going to do that again on this section, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 gets purled, and then the last 2 get knit. Now, you have a choice when you get here. Once you've gotten them to the point that they're basically together, you can go ahead and knit the next row, which I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to go ahead and knit this row. But then after this row, you don't have to do a knit row in between your decreases. We will just start doing decreases. And when you look at your pattern, when you look at your sock, it really is starting to look kind of cute. It's got a chevron pattern going, up and down V's, and it's really kind of cute. But it also makes your toe round, which for some people, the square toe is just annoying because you get a little X because your feet are made, some of our toes are more rounded than others. Some people have square toes, some people have almost triangle toes, but the way mine are, they're more rounded. And so when I have that, if my toes are going like this, and my sock goes like this, this extra fabric sometimes can be very annoying to my toes. So if you're making socks for someone else, you might want to ask them how their toes are, if they're more round, if they're more square, because you want them to enjoy their socks if you're making socks for someone else. And especially little kids. Little kids are very fussy about things like that because that would hurt their feet. That would make their feet hurt in their shoes. So you want to be a little bit cautious of how you're making socks for someone else. If you're making them for yourself, you pretty much know what you're doing. Okay, so I have gone ahead and knit around that last row. Now this next row, we will not do our purl stitch. All we will do is knit to the last 2 stitches and knit them together. And we're going to do that around. So let's do the first row together, just so you kind of can see what I'm doing. So I go ahead and knit to the last 2 stitches in my segment before I get to my stitch marker. And I'm going to knit those 2 together, slip my marker, knit the next stitches to my last 2, and then we're going to go ahead and knit those 2 stitches together. And you can see you're starting to get that round shape. Let's turn it and do it on the other side. I pulled that yarn just a little too tight on that one. You have to be a little careful because you can see the cord is a lot smaller than your needle, and so once you pull this needle out, if you pull this yarn too tight, you're going to have trouble like I just did. And I wasn't thinking. A lot of times I'm very careful not to do that, but I wasn't thinking. So we are knitting to our last 2 stitches per segment and knit the last 2 together. Yep, there we go. Knit these 2. And so basically you're just going to keep doing that the entire way of your sock until you have, let's see, 1, 2, you'll have 4 stitches on your needle. Once you have 4 stitches on your needle, then I'll show you what we do to finish it up. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this again, and I will be back once I get, and all we're not doing a purl, and we're not doing a knit row. We are every single time around, we are knitting those last 2 together. That's all we're doing from now on. Okay, I will be right back with you. Okay, so I have 4 stitches on each of my needles. And at this point, again, you have a choice. And I'm going to measure and I have about 2.5 stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut probably about 12 inches. And then you can either use a crochet hook or you can use a tapestry needle, but I'm just going to crochet or knit mine off, which means I go into my first stitch as if to knit it, and I pull my yarn through. Rather than keeping it as a stitch, I pull it through. And let me show you that again. I go as if to knit it, I pull my yarn through, and then I take that stitch off. And you can actually take the stitch off, if you're comfortable, before you have your yarn through, just like I did there. And then I'll do the other side. And you can see those are taken up like that. So we go as if to knit again. Pull our yarn through, that stitch comes off because it has something so that it won't unwrap. And if you're doing a tapestry needle, you just thread your needle and then go through each stitch so that there's yarn going through each stitch so that it won't unravel again. So once I've done this, I might want to take either a tapestry needle or a crochet hook and try to go through those again. But once you've completed this circle, you just have to pull this yarn to the inside of your sock and then kind of sew it into the fabric. And what I'll do is, just like this, when you're on the ribbing side, I will take my tapestry needle, because I use a tapestry needle to do this, and I will pick up a stitch, and if you can see, I'm going inward, which means it's very easy to catch the next one. And you can catch several of these before you pull your needle through with your thread, and then this will get pulled up here. So that's that one. Now, on the inside of your toe, you'll have to just kind of weave it in around here a little bit to get rid of it, and then cut off what's excess, what you can't get weaved in. But see what a pretty little round toe that has made? And there's your first sock. I do have some bigger holes there, which I'm not going to worry about. These are bed socks, something that an older person will wear to bed with them. Okay, so that will be with our double points. Now, if you are doing, or that was with our circular needle, if you're doing double points, it's basically the same, except that you have each segment on a needle. So you will knit one, purl one, knit to the last two, knit them together. And you will do that around. You'll need to remember this is the beginning of your round at the bottom of your foot. So as you're doing it, once you get back to the bottom of your foot, especially on the first few, then you will knit the next stitch, just like we did with our circulars. And again, once you get to the point where you have purled all of these and you've knit, then you just start purling the entire way around and you finish it off just like we have here by pulling something through. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this segment. This has been fun to teach. I know we've taken it very slowly and thoroughly, I hope. If you have any questions, just leave me a message down at the bottom and I can get back to you, or I can create another video for whatever question you have if it warrants that. But I want to thank you for coming and join me when we do a different kind of sock. And I am considering teaching you the toe-up sock next. So, but that we will not be doing in bigger yarn. That I will have you get a sock yarn which is quite a bit thinner. I don't have any right here, but it's quite a bit thinner. And if you're up to it, then we'll go ahead and we'll do a toe up. Once you know the construction of a sock, then you can do either cuff down and finish your toe, or toe up and finish your cup. And you can see those are very stretchy. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.